I'm a slacker.
The following program, The Russ Belville Show, is intended for responsible adults only. We advocate to the repeal of marijuana prohibition for adults. We discuss the science, culture, and controversy about America's marijuana laws. We do not advocate any illegal activity and encourage all listeners to learn their state and federal marijuana laws. Opinions and claims made by guests and advertisers on The Russ Belville Show are their own, and The Russ Belville Show cannot be held legally responsible for their validity or reliability. Viewer discretion is advised.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down smooth. Hey!
Spanning the continent to bring you the truth about cannabis and marijuana law reform.
I smoke pot and I like it a lot.
From the promise of legalization.
And I think that we think if we criminalize our marijuana laws.
To the agony of prohibition.
One major responsibility is to encourage people to use less drugs.
The Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Yeah, I hear you had a question for me.
Now, here's your host, Radical Russ Belville.
All right, good day, tokers and tokettes, and welcome. It is Thursday, November 1st, 2012, and it's got to be 420 somewhere in the world. Thanks for joining us here at our new time, 3 p.m. Pacific time, 6 p.m. Eastern time, every weekday right here at RadicalRuss.com. It's just 5 days before the election. We're getting really excited for Marijuana Election Night 2012 right here at RadicalRuss.com and theweedblog.com. Also, we'll be streaming in partnership with Pot TV and Jody Emery, so that'll be a lot of fun. Check it all out this Tuesday, November 6th, from 4 p.m. Pacific to 10 p.m. Pacific. We're rolling across the USA, counting each time zone from east to west as they close and getting you the latest information from the polls as they close and whether or not we pass medical marijuana in Massachusetts, Arkansas, and Montana, and whether or not we pass legalization in Colorado, Oregon, and Washington. We've got live reporters in all of those states, so this will be the first place you'll hear if any of those states are to break through this election cycle. Joining me in the studio today, we've got Brian the Red hanging out. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing just fine, Russ. It's exciting. 5 days away. I got my ballot right here.
Oh yeah, let's show.
Got
Got your ballot there. Everybody here in Oregon, we are completely vote by mail state. So there's your vote. Have you got your vote for Measure 80 in there?
There's Measure 80.
Let me just get close up on you here.
Bam.
There we go. There's what voting for legalization looks like.
Take that, prohibition.
Also on today's show, unfortunately, Cannabis Carrie couldn't join us because of the time change, but she will be back on future shows. Don't you worry. I'll take care of the marijuana headlines today. And when we go behind the headlines, we're going to take a look at a hearing that started today on a man in Utah who's possibly facing the death penalty for killing one police officer and shooting 5 others when they served a search warrant on his home for a marijuana grow. We'll do our daily toker tunes at 20 after. Got more great new hip-hop music from somebody who emailed me and wanted to showcase some of his artists. We'll talk about that at 20 after. At half past, we're joined by Roy Kaufmann, the campaign director from Measure 80 here in Oregon, to talk about a press conference happening tomorrow morning. We will be there to get coverage and bring it to you on tomorrow's show as well. Then at the end of the show, time for a little bit of a radical rant. I'm going to take a look at the FDA, Big Pharma, and what they consider to be safe drugs. Safer than marijuana, according to their scheduling. Right back after all this.
It's simply business. It's simply business. It's simply business, you know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
It's simply business. It's simply business. simply business, you know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business. It's simply business, you know why they won't let us grow. It's simply business.
Hi, this is Melissa Etheridge, and I'm encouraging you to vote yes on Amendment 64. Because a few years ago, I was going through cancer chemotherapy, and I was suffering. The nausea, the pain, it was terrible. Prescription drugs were not helping. The only thing that allowed me to function and regain my strength was marijuana, and I'm grateful for the relief it provided me. You know, before I needed to use marijuana, I just accepted the laws that treat marijuana users as criminals. But it's funny how a serious illness can give you a new outlook on life. I now see that it's wrong to arrest adults for using marijuana, and it's even more wrong to allow gangs and cartels to profit from selling marijuana. Instead, we should allow adults to possess limited amounts of marijuana, and we should regulate marijuana sales in order to generate tax revenues for public school construction and other community needs. To me, regulating marijuana is simply the right thing to do. Please vote yes on Amendment 64, paid for by the Campaign to Regulate Marijuana Like.
Normal Show Live. We're as much like Cheech and Chong as ordinary Americans are like the Three Stooges. Hey, Mo! Here, Mo! Yar! Thar be pirates here! Har, 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 har.
Now it's time for our 420 headline news with Carrie Gallagher. Carrie is off today. I'm Russ Belville with the news. The Arkansas Medical Marijuana Campaign has raised nearly $420,000 versus the opponents raising only $48,000. The Associated Press reports that Arkansans for Compassionate Care this week reported it raised almost $420,000 in October for its campaign to legalize medical marijuana. The group spent more than $406,000 during the month and had less than $17,000 cash on hand. The group has raised more than $708,000 overall for its campaign. Two groups opposing the initiative have raised much less. The Family Council Action Committee raised nearly $37,000 last month and spent more than $30,000. The Coalition to Preserve Arkansas Values raised $9,000 and spent $9,000. Despite outspending opponents almost 10-1, the Arkansas measure faces an uphill battle. The latest Talk Business poll shows Issue 5 with majority opposition at 54%, with support only at 38% and 8% undecided. You can help Arkansans for Compassionate Care by phone banking and donating today. Visit arcompassion.org. In the latest Washington poll, voters are likely to pass marijuana legalization and gay marriage. Voters in Washington state are likely to pass a referendum in support of gay marriage and an initiative to legalize marijuana, according to the latest Washington poll. The Washington poll asked 722 registered voters, including 632 indicated as likely voters, about Referendum 74, which would extend equal rights to marriage to gays and lesbians, and Initiative 502, which would legalize the possession of 1 ounce of marijuana by adults and create a state-licensed system of marijuana cultivation and sales. The gay marriage referendum is leading in the poll, 58% support to 37% opposed. When pollsters factor in people who maybe don't wish to give a socially undesirable answer, support still remains at 52% support to 46% opposed. The marijuana legalization initiative is leading 55% support to 38% opposed. The poll also shows 1/3 of those polled had already mailed in their ballots. Amsterdam's mayor says tourists at marijuana coffee houses are welcome. The mayor of Amsterdam, Eberhard van der Laan, told the Dutch newspaper De Volkskrant that the city's coffee shops will remain open to tourists despite plans by the Dutch government to restrict foreigners from the participation in the marijuana sales that are tolerated within. The mayor cited a potential return of black market street dealing as one reason for opposing the ban. Quote, "The 1.5 million tourists will not say, then no more marijuana, Mr. Vanderlaan told the newspaper. They will swarm all over the city looking for drugs. This would lead to more robberies, quarrels about fake drugs, and no control of the quality of drugs on the market. Everything we have worked toward would be lost to misery, end quote. The Dutch government announced plans 2 years ago to create a Dutch-only weed pass system to stymie the drug tourism that plagues the southern Dutch towns like Maastricht when Belgians, French, and Germans cross the border to purchase marijuana to take back home with them. Maastricht has indeed seen an increase in street dealing, but also a decrease in street traffic as the number of drug tourists fell sharply when it instituted a weed pass system back in May. The Dutch government has not stopped its plan to restrict foreigners from Dutch coffeehouses. However, the new prime minister has indicated he's willing to allow local councils to decide how to handle the drug tourism issue. Mayor Vanderlaan's announcement may have been an effort to push the new government into making a stronger statement on the issue. We want to remind you that we are 5 days away from Marijuana Election Night 2012 and encourage you all to make sure that you vote and get someone else out to the polls to vote. We will be covering Marijuana Election Night here from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. at RadicalRuss.com and TheWeedBlog.com. We'll be covering Massachusetts Question 3, Arkansas Issue 5, Montana Referendum 124, Colorado Amendment 64, Oregon Measure 80, and Washington Initiative 502. Make sure to tune in, and thanks for supporting independent marijuana media. This has been your 420 Headline News with Russ Belville. When we come back, we're going to go behind the scenes and take a look at a hearing in Utah for a man charged with aggravated murder for the killing of a police officer. We'll be right back after these messages. Legalization is on the Oregon ballot this November. I'm just one of over 500,000 Oregon adults who use marijuana annually, and I'm asking you to vote yes on Measure 80. Measure 80 would finally end the futile prohibition of marijuana and institute regulations that treat marijuana like alcohol. Measure 80 would end the facade of police trying to determine who is sick or healthy enough to put in a cage over a plant. Measure 80 provides jobs and tax revenue that Oregon desperately needs and institutes the industrial hemp crop our legislators already legalized. Best of all, Measure 80 protects our children by imposing the same educational and ID carding requirements that have brought teen alcohol drinking and tobacco smoking to their lowest ever recorded levels. Marijuana smokers are your family, your coworkers, and your friends, and we are 1 out of every 7 Oregon adults who deserve the same respect as our friends who enjoy fine Oregon wines and craft beers. We may be the only Oregonians who want to pay more taxes. Please donate to Oregonians for Law Reform at OregonLawReform.com and help us help Oregon by passing Measure 80. "17 states and the District of Columbia have legalized the use of marijuana for medicinal purposes. Over 70% of the American public supports the use of marijuana for medicinal purposes. What does Governor Mitt Romney think of medical marijuana?"
So medical marijuana is legal in Colorado. One of our viewers, Bill Ferguson, asked, should marijuana be legalized for medical use?
Aren't there issues of significance that you'd like to talk about?
The medicinal use of marijuana is a significant issue to the millions suffering from cancer, AIDS, and other chronic pain, nausea, spasticity, and seizure disorders.
I think marijuana should not be legal in this country. I believe it's a gateway drug to other drug violations. The use of illegal drugs in this country is leading to terrible consequences in places like Mexico and actually in our own country.
Okay.
I oppose legalization of marijuana.
Ah, yes. Welcome. It's time for Behind the Headlines here. And for today, I want to take a look at a hearing that has begun in the state of Utah. This was a story that we covered back in January when it first happened. And now they're finally getting to the initial hearing phases. Very, very sad story. Matthew David Stewart is the man's name. He's age 37 of Ogden, Utah. He's facing a preliminary hearing on felony charges related to the killing of one police officer and the wounding of 5 others when they served a search warrant on the night of January 4th at his home for marijuana cultivation. Prosecutors are seeking the death penalty in this case for aggravated murder and for 8 other felony counts that happened in the shootout. Stewart spoke with the Salt Lake Tribune in an interview back in February after he'd been arrested, and he said, quote, "When you're convinced that you are getting robbed and most likely killed by a group of armed men, your instincts kick in." And then Stewart goes on to explain that he'd been working a night shift at Walmart and was asleep between 8 p.m. and 8:30 p.m. when the police strike force arrived to serve the warrant. Now, of course, between 8 and 8:30 in Utah in January, it's dark out. It's not even sunsetting. It's completely dark by that time. Cops became aware that Stewart had been growing marijuana thanks to a call on their tip line in September of 2011. That's when Stewart's ex-girlfriend, Stacy Wilson, called to tell police that Stewart was growing 12 to 15 plants in his home and had been doing so for about 9 years. So here we have a vindictive ex-girlfriend snitching on the boyfriend. Yeah. Ladies, well, and for that matter, everybody, ladies and gentlemen, let's just talk to all of you here. If you're going out with someone, you're living with someone, you're sleeping with someone who's growing marijuana, no matter how mad you get at them, no matter how pissed off they might make you, completely ruining their lives and subjecting them to felony prosecution is not acceptable behavior. All right, let me get on. There's so much more I would say, but I'm going to keep this to be a family show at the moment. 3 times, the police say that 3 times they tried to reach Stewart through a knock and talk, which is when cops visit, knock on your door, they want to talk to you, see what's going on. Basically, it's their way of trying to collect more evidence so that later they can come back with a search warrant. On their last visit, when they came back, and they weren't able to reach the guy any of the 3 times. He didn't show up, didn't answer the door or anything. But on the last time they visited, they could see through the windows. Some of the curtains were kind of open, and they could see enough evidence of a grow-op. Like they saw extra light coming from the basement. They saw big water jug containers, other sorts of stuff that you'd have if you were trying to grow indoors. So they saw that, and that was enough for them to go get a search warrant signed by a judge. So they go there on that night of January 4th. Late at night, well, not late at night, but dark, right? 8 o'clock at night. And they claim to have yelled, "Police, search warrant," when they crashed through the front door. They claim to have all been wearing visible identification of being police officers and repeatedly identifying themselves as such while in the home. But Stewart claims to have had no idea the men were police officers when they came barging in, and he hid from what he believed to be home invading assailants. Now, as the shootout went down, 2 bullets hit Stewart, causing doctors to remove part of his intestine and forcing him to have to use a colostomy bag. Agent Jared Frankham was fatally shot 6 times. Agent Casey Burrell was shot in the abdomen and cheek, shattering his skull, requiring speech therapy and ongoing bowel and intestinal issues. Agent Jason Vanderwerf was shot in the hip. Officer Michael Rankles, who was doing routine parole checks nearby, joined the shootout with his shotgun, only to be shot in the mouth and forearm. Agent Sean Grogan was shot in the face, losing some teeth and part of his tongue and jaw. Sergeant Nate Hutchinson was shot 4 times and claims after he had escaped to the street, Stewart came to the front doorway and began shooting at him and the other injured officers in the street. The families of these cops will be devastated. Of course, the family of the police officer who is now dead will grieve for years and years. The man who was shot here still is undergoing all sorts of medical problems, and he's facing the potential of being on death row and losing his life over growing some plants in his home. Thus, thanks to a vindictive ex-girlfriend and marijuana prohibition, far more death and destruction occurred in one January night than could have ever been caused by the dozen marijuana plants Matt Stewart had been growing in Ogden, Utah for 9 years. I don't know what else to say after stories like that. I don't encourage anyone to be shooting it out with cops over your plants. Nobody needs to die over a plant, but this would have never happened over homebrewed beer.
We'll get some of the public's reactions. You know, call in an hour or two.
Yeah, let us know what you think.
We gotta relax.
If he said he swam to China, he would send to South Carolina. Then you know you're talking to that reefer man.
Funky, licious.
Oh yeah, that's right. Groovin'. Keeping it mellow here at the Funky Roller Ring. So join me, Big Daddy, every Thursday night. The doors open at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, baby.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Groove on. Groove on.
The Russ Belville Show. Chat is for friends 18 and older. We expect our chat to be civil, mature, and free from excessive profanity. If you don't like these rules, there are approximately 6 billion other chat rooms with lower standards that you can visit.
Cannabis.
Non-alcohol.
Do you know that I can be used to treat a number of physical and psychological conditions like depression, Huntington's disease, and osteosclerosis?
Your mother's an osteoporosis.
I can also be used to help those who are abusing our friend over here.
You know what the problem is with you? You think you're better than everybody else. Hey, look at me, I'm weak.
Okay, I actually do prefer to be called cannabis. I'm illegal.
I'm illegal. Because weed makes you stupid.
Everyone knows music and marijuana go together, so let's wind up our 20 after break with the Russ Belville Show's Daily Toker Tunes, the best in pod-safe 420 music from around the web. Today is Groovin' Thursday, featuring rap, hip-hop, soul, and funk music. You can get downloads and more information about all our Daily Toker Tunes by visiting music.radicalruss.com. Now, sit back and enjoy your Daily Toker Tunes.
All right, time for some Daily Toker Tunes. It's Groovin' Thursday, and we're going to turn things over to the hip-hop elements of Groovin' Thursday this time. I got an email a while back, earlier this month, from the owner of HDI Records, Micah, out of HDI Records, out of Greenville, South Carolina. And we played one of his tunes a couple weeks ago. It was Miss Mary Jane featuring Cookie Cook, which I thought was a really grooving tune. He just emailed me back to let me know they got another promo tune out for an EP being released later this year. One Drop is the name of the tune. The music's by MJD, and it features vocals by John Shooter Hargrove. So let's get into it. This is One Drop.
Medical, one hit, you can hold that. If they ain't loud, then the nigga won't roll that. 6 J's and I got a couple bow packs. Eyes low, so the Ray-Bans all black. Got phones, got vapes, got papers. You smoking Reggie, I don't fuck with the Pacers. Independent deal, but the money looking major. Now the trees and the girls coming all flavors. Split it, gut it, fill it, tuck it. You niggas gotta count grams and budget. While we burn a whole zip like fuck it. My girl got her own stash, it's nothing. Fountain in bed, I get it for a good price. You try to wake and bake this, then it's good night. I'ma need 2 packs, no Suge Knight. Cop tacos in the hope it don't look. Bitch, I'm high. I'm souffle, stay lit up like 2 rays. 50 grams here for 48 of ours. 2 days, I roll one cause it's Tuesday. Burn 2 L's, no Cool J. You swear her like the North Face. I tell her kick push, no Lupe. I wake and bake, I been high. Kush fresh out the Ziploc. Your shit hit like Kenny G and my shit hit like Slipknot. Grind until we get filthy rich, we smoking grass like it's 66. This my team and we hugging trees, and I swear we on that hippie shit. Okay, trees stuffed in my Louis jeans, double cup and it's full of lean. HDI be the fucking team and this VIP when we hit the scene. Phone rips on my grown man, did this shit on our own, man. These checks come when we waking up, cause we grind all night like a slow jam. Fresh is up profession, y'all number 2, you testing. Tuttle planes bow down in our presence, cause they in the midst of perfection, man. We smoke loud and we reckless, we in this bitch like Fat Town. We killing shit to the hook drop, that's what I call a deadline.
Funky roller ring.
Oh yeah.
What's happening, groovy cats? This is your funk master of ceremonies, Big Daddy, and I want you to join me every Thursday night at 11 Eastern, 8 Pacific, right here at the Funky Roller Ring.
Oh yeah.
Your home of soul, funk, and disco, baby.
Funky-licious.
There's always a party at the Funky Roller Ring.
Of the last 7 major party candidates to run for president, 3 of the last 7 vice presidential candidates, and the last 3 presidents have all smoked pot. Marijuana, the gateway drug to the White House. This is the Russ Belville Show.
Sure if it's real, really, is all we're trying to tell. Oh, it's real. And for those of you who are wondering if I'm high right now, I am not. That is not nearly enough to get me high.
Activism begins with ACT. The Russ Belville Show features the stories of hardworking grassroots activists working for an end to prohibition in today's activist agenda.
All right, welcome back, everybody. 28 after the hour, and today we are just staying home right here in the state of Oregon, and we're going live to Roy Kaufmann, who is the campaign director for Measure 80, our marijuana legalization initiative that we just voted on by mail. So, Roy, welcome to the show. Oh, we're still trying to get through to Roy. Come on, Roy.
Hello.
Hey, Roy, do we got you? This is Russ.
Yeah. Hey, Russ, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Glad to have you in line. Roy Kaufmann from the Measure 80 campaign. I know you're real busy, so thanks for taking some time to talk to us.
No, thanks for having me on.
All right. So first things first, let's talk about you've got a press conference going on tomorrow morning. We're going to be out there to get some footage of that for the show, but tell folks who are here in the Portland area might want to stop by and see it. What's happening?
Yeah, well, we would love folks to come out and support the press conference and support the campaign. Tomorrow is really about the public safety professionals who have seen firsthand the front lines of the failure of the war on marijuana and the war on drugs. And that includes former police officers, prosecutors, probation and corrections officers, people who really have in their careers seen what the war on marijuana has given us, which is really increased organized crime and families torn apart and lives ruined for really nothing to show for it. The perspective tomorrow is an important one, but there's another angle to tomorrow's press conference, which is that almost all of the speakers that we're going to have at this event are women. And these are women professionals, former police officers and corrections officers who have seen from the perspective of women voters why Measure 80 is so important and why repealing prohibition is so important. And that's a perspective that the campaign believes is vital for Oregon and really vital for the movement nationally, to have those voices of women and those voices of public safety experts, including representatives from LEAP, the Law Enforcement Against Prohibition, which has been such an advocate on this issue for years and years.
Excellent. So where will the press conference be? What time? That kind of info?
Perfect. Yeah, so the press conference is tomorrow morning, Friday morning in downtown Portland at Lonsdale Square. Lonsdale Square is the park directly in front of the Multnomah County Courthouse in downtown Portland at the corner of Southwest 4th Avenue and Main Street. So 4th and Main, incredibly easy to find, very accessible by public transit, bus, Max Line, everything, bicycle as well. And we will ask people to gather there at 10 o'clock. Remarks will begin at 10:30, and we should be all wrapped up by 11 o'clock.
Now, Lonsdale, wasn't this the place that Occupy made famous, that park?
It was.
Okay.
It absolutely was. Yeah, Lonsdale Square is right there. It's in the heart of, if you will, sort of the government complex of downtown Portland. It's across the street from the county courthouse, down the street from Portland City Hall, and just across the way from the federal building. So it's an incredibly important place symbolically as well as geographically.
So you mentioned that most of the people speaking at the conference will be women, and how important that is for Measure 80's outreach. What have you seen in polling? What have you seen in trying to promote this issue that convinces you it's so important to reach out to women?
Well, I think if you look at the national polling, I know you are the true expert on these things, but if you look at the national polling, nationally, women tend to be less supportive of marijuana legalization and regulation, and it tends to be on the issues where they would be most supportive if they had more information and had more education on the topic, which is to say they're making the case about how prohibition actually makes families, communities, and children less safe, and how regulation and legalization through taxation makes communities and families safer. Really brings around a lot of women who have not traditionally been supportive of the issue. And the other piece of that puzzle is that it is a generational aspect as well. So younger women tend to be like their younger male counterparts, more supportive. Older women tend to be like their male older counterparts, less supportive. But there are amazing groups like Bobby Platshorn at the Silver Tour that has been doing a lot of work on outreach, and other organizations. Normal Women's Alliance has been doing a great effort in reaching out to women on this issue. But it has traditionally been an issue more supported by men than women, and that is the case here in Oregon as well. But I will say one other thing. When I go to speak at forums and debates and Democratic committee meetings, I frequently am approached by women and men who quietly after the program will tell me how supportive they are of Measure 80, how much they agree that the war on marijuana has been an epic failure, but they are also very afraid to share that perspective publicly, to stand up in a room and say they support legalizing and regulating marijuana for the fear and the stigma that has been attached to the issue for so many years. Right. So it is that quiet support that we see in Oregon that I hope we will see at the polls as well on Election Day, but that is really hard to capture in the kind of traditional landline polling that is becoming less and less relevant at every level of politics.
Yeah. Now, do you feel that that then the polls may underrepresent the support for Measure 80 because it might not be? I mean, I just did a story on a poll up in Washington on gay marriage, and in the poll they specified that they adjusted the polling because some people might be afraid to give a socially unacceptable answer. Do you think that might be a factor in polling for marijuana legalization?
Without a doubt, and that's actually a case I made to the Seattle Weekly yesterday. They were doing a follow-up story on the Elway research poll, and I think absolutely the polls underrepresent the support for Measure 80. We'll see exactly how strong that support is on Tuesday, but I do believe if you look at a few different things, if you look at the fact that most of these polls, including the Elway research Oregonian newspaper poll, that poll was a traditional landline poll. So you have to think about who has landlines anymore and who answers a blocked call on their landline. And that's the audience that you're capturing in a poll. So you're automatically skewing older on those polls for the simple fact that most people 18 to 35 don't have landlines anymore. They all have mobile phones, and therefore they're not captured in those polls. You should also fold in the fact that the Oregon Student Association, as I'm sure you're very aware, registered a record 50,000 new Oregon voters this past fall, and those are 50,000 voters who were not eligible to vote in 2008 or in 2010 are certainly not captured in the polls, and who, according to statistics at least, would be overwhelmingly likely to support Measure 80 and efforts like Measure 80. And there's other correlations, and there's other sort of bits and pieces of signal in and amongst the noise that I think mean that Measure 80 has more support that has been demonstrated in some of the more recent polls, but we will see. The only poll that really matters is the one on Tuesday night.
Yes, and luckily we all get to do that by mail. Ballots are already out, so if you're listening to this and you haven't voted yet in Oregon, check your mail. If you didn't get your ballot, send me an email, russ@radicalruss.com, and we'll figure this out. We'll get a ballot to you somehow. We got to legalize marijuana. We're speaking with Roy Kaufmann. He's the campaign director for Yes on 80. Go ahead, Roy.
Oh, thank you, Russ. I just wanted to say one thing, especially for younger voters, people who might be voting in their first election, who may not have, been as familiar with voting. And this is something that folks don't necessarily know. You don't actually have to vote on every single item on your ballot. As a matter of fact, you can just vote on one item on your ballot and send it in. So if you are not motivated to vote for a specific presidential candidate, you're not motivated to vote for a specific congressional candidate or local race, we still need your vote yes on Measure 80. And that is absolutely legal and acceptable to mark yes on Measure 80 and drop that ballot off. That's just an important piece for people who are possibly new to voting here in Oregon.
And that's a good point, because it kind of dovetails into a question I was thinking about, and that is, is this being a presidential election race with a little less enthusiasm than the 2008, especially among the younger voters. In 2008, there was a huge, turnout for Barack Obama. It seems the Obama campaign's kind of turned off along a lot of younger voters this year. But in Oregon, the polls seem to show Oregon being pretty solidly blue, pretty likely to go for Obama. We've also seen Governor Gary Johnson and Jill Stein, Dr. Jill Stein from the Green Party, campaigning heavily in this state. How do you see the presidential election politics playing out, and will they help Measure 80 get over the line?
I think that's a really great question. I think the short answer is yes. I mean, you're absolutely right. Gary Johnson and Jill Stein from the Libertarian and Green parties, respectively, have been overwhelmingly vocal on their support for legalizing marijuana and ending the war on drugs. Gary Johnson has been touting that message for quite a long time, and Jill Stein has been more recent to the message, but they've both been incredibly articulate on it and have personally endorsed Measure 80 specifically, as well as calling for legalization nationally. And they have been doing a lot of organizing in Oregon. They were, Jill Stein was at the Hemp Stock Festival. She was, I believe, at Hemp Fest as well, and Gary Johnson and Jim Gray, his vice presidential candidate, were also at the festivals and very, very supportive. So I think you're absolutely right. There are a lot of voters, and especially voters who did vote for Obama in 2008, who have been disappointed in his administration's position on medical marijuana and their total dismissal of the debate on legalization, that are going to give Gary Johnson and Jill Stein a serious look. And I think, even though the polls haven't really done much to capture the numbers, I think we're going to see a much higher level of support for Gary Johnson and for Jill Stein in Oregon than people are anticipating. There was just a news story in the Oregonian just a couple of hours ago today that showed that registration for the Democratic Party and the Republican Party in Oregon is down for both parties, and yet registration for Independent Party and unaffiliated is up, which means that voters, they're not tuning out of the electoral process, they're tuning out of the two-party system. And I think that bodes very, very well for Measure 80 and for measures like ours that are to cut across the political spectrum and really pull people out to vote that may not have voted before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are very excited to see how the election turns out. Roy Kaufmann, campaign director with Measure 80, the Yes on 80 campaign. Before we let you go, let's remind people about the press conference. It's tomorrow, downtown, about 10 a.m.
Yeah, absolutely. So, ask people to get there at around 10. Remarks will start at 10:30 a.m. That's downtown Portland, Friday morning, Lounsdale Square, Southwest 4th and Main. We'll have remarks from former law enforcement officers, former parole and probation officers. We're also going to have Sarah Frank, who is the founder of Moms for Marijuana, and she's going to be speaking about the toll on families that prohibition has taken, which is an aspect that we don't talk enough about, and deserves a lot more attention. So eager for people to join us and to be there and to listen in. And if you are a member of law enforcement or retired from law enforcement and you want to be there and you want to make a few remarks, please don't hesitate to join us, and we'll work you into the program as well. Excellent. And also the website, Facebook information for people if they want to get in touch with the campaign and help out. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. The easiest way to find the website is to go to vote80.org. That's vote80.org. And if you go to that website, you can click on, there's a button right there that says Start Virtual Phone Banking Now. That's a joint effort between Measure 80 and Oregonians for Law Reform and the good people over at Just Say Now. And that's been an incredible resource for us. People, if you are good on the phone, and even if you're not good on the phone, but you just want to find a way to help, maybe you can't make a contribution to the campaign, but you still want to help, this is the single best way to help. You go to vote80.org, you click on the phone banking button, it'll take you to a website where you are given a script, you're given the name and phone number of a voter here in Oregon. You can do it from anywhere in the country, you can do it from your pajamas, you can do it from your dorm room, wherever you are. If you can help us reach voters and get them educated on Measure 80, every single call matters. Excellent. Thank you so much, Roy Kaufmann from the Measure 80 campaign. Good luck on everything this coming Tuesday, and we'll see you on our live stream. I look forward to it. Thanks for having me on. All right. Going to take a break. When we come back, we'll have a little bit of a time for a radical rant. We're going to take a look at the FDA, Big Pharma, and what they consider to be safe and approved medicines for human use in the United States.
We'll be right back after these messages from our 420 friendly sponsors. Support these advertisers because their ad money goes straight to the Russ Belville Show. You're tuned into the Russ Belville Show, the voice of the marijuana nation.
Marijuana legalization. It's a topic everyone is talking about out west. Oregonians have always been pioneers in marijuana policy. We were the first to decriminalize personal possession in 1973 and one of the first to legalize medical marijuana use in 1998. Now it is time for Oregon to take the lead again and become the first state to regulate marijuana like we do alcohol. We can do that by passing Measure 80 this election. Let's face it, demand for marijuana isn't going anywhere, and the longer we deny that, the more unscrupulous dealers take advantage of our medical law. With Measure 80, we will finally end abuses of medical marijuana by providing all consumers with a well-regulated, adults-only store where IDs are checked. The state reaps tax revenue, our economy gains new jobs, and our police can put their energies toward solving actual crimes. The feds may not like it, but since when do Oregonians let Washington, D.C. tell them how to run the state? The feds may not like it, but since when do Oregonians let Washington, D.C. tell us how to run our state? 1 out of 7 Oregon adults uses marijuana, and they shouldn't be treated like criminals. Vote yes on Measure 80, and let's make marijuana work for Oregon.
Actually, I haven't had a chance to talk to Mr. Armstrong before the show, but we had a great discussion about it. I just asked one of the folks in the show, Bob Back, I said, well, what is Louis Armstrong going to do? Oh, he says, he's going way up. Way up. Is that the highest you could get?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, why don't you let me say thank you? I'm only sorry you weren't going to be here with us longer. I wish you could have gotten higher, but why don't you go over and say hello to the folks?
Well, I'll get higher next time.
Take a rap bass and those empty rap bass. Now the never go back when. And that's the never go back when. Now the no
Hey, this is Willie Nelson for Normal. And if you're one of the 26 million Americans who smoked marijuana last year, you need to get involved in the drive to legalize marijuana. We need your help to stop the senseless arrest of more than 800,000 Americans each year on marijuana charges. Together, we can end marijuana prohibition and stop the arrests of marijuana smokers. To learn what you can do to help, contact NORML at NORML.org or call toll-free 888-67-NORMAL.
You want answers? I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore. You want answers?
You have offended my family.
I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth.
And you have offended a Shaolin temple.
You can't handle the truth.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Radical rant.
Oh boy, this next topic is something I've been ranting on for a while on this show and in other locations, and that is this canard, this trope, this constant reefer madness we get from our opponents of medical marijuana, who always say, well, we don't vote on medicine. We don't vote on what people are going to use as medicine. By God, we have a system for that. We have the FDA. The Food and Drug Administration. We have ways of making sure that drugs are scientifically valid and safe for human use, right? We've got a way, we got a method. You can't just vote on this stuff. So that has always bothered me because there's all sorts of problems with the FDA approval process, namely that big pharmaceutical companies have to put up anywhere from 100 to 200 million to take a drug from its research and development all the way through to the consumer market. And so in doing so, they're willing to cut all sorts of corners and, play all sorts of games and tricks to make sure their 100 or 200 million dollar investment does not go to waste. And it's been over the past 3 decades where we have seen the industry insiders being the ones who've been appointed to the positions within the FDA to control this regulatory process. The hens are guarding the foxes are guarding the hen house here is what we've got going on with the FDA. So I just wanted to take a look at some of these drugs that have gone through the FDA approval process and been recalled. Because you understand that the FDA, once it approves a drug as being safe for human consumption, oftentimes these drugs get recalled because it's discovered, whoops, wasn't so safe. We shouldn't have tried that one. So I want to take a look at a few of these, but before we do, just think about another aspect of this argument. There's a silly aspect to it too. it's kind of one of the side arguments to the whole FDA science thing. And that is when they look at our medicine, when they look at medical marijuana, and they make fun of it because of the strain names. We don't have medicines named Grape Ape and Purple Urkel and Alaskan Thunderfuck. You can't call those medicines, right? Well, of course, since marijuana has been prohibited and been on the black market, its marketing has had to been, under the radar, so to speak, and colorful and a way of attracting people with low information about the substance. So you are going to get colorful names like Alaskan Thunderfuck and Grape Ape and all these kind of things. But I refuse to take that criticism seriously when Big Pharma is out there right this minute marketing a drug called Aciphex. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Aciphex. 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 Look it up. Now, Aciphex is for the treatment of GERD, a kind of a stomach disorder, causes, acid reflux and all of that. But it's called Aciphex. I always thought Aciphex was what happened after I had a black bean burrito out there at the Mexican restaurant down the street. That's what it's. Yeah, thank you. So we got Aciphex, and there's another drug out there. You know the drug Cialis? You've heard of Cialis. It's one of those erectile dysfunction drugs along with Viagra and Levitra. There's Cialis, right? Do you know what the generic name of Cialis is? Tadalafil. That's right. Take one of these little pills and ta-da! Yeah. So an industry that's marketing Aciphex and Tadalafil, and then is trying to sell to us all of these antidepressant drugs and other drugs through the use of cartoons. Have you seen this? The cartoon depression drugs, right? Where the woman's got terrible depression. It's either an umbrella or it's a robe or it's something that, oh, I'm so depressed and she's always wearing it. Oh gosh, things are bad, right? And then they give her this other drug, and the voiceover will say, if your antidepressant is not working for you, try this drug, which will help that drug. Right? The first one wasn't good enough. Now you got to take the second one to help the first one. And that never seems to make the umbrella or the cartoon depression or the hole that never goes away. It's always right there beside him, right? It's not curing nothing. I mean, Chris Rock said it best. They ain't cured nothing since polio. They're probably still pissed about that. The money's in the comeback, right? The money's in the comeback, not just for the first pill, but the second pill to make sure the first pill stays over there. So don't give me this making fun of Grape Ape and Purple Urkel when you got Aciphex, Tadalafil, and you're using cartoons to sell drugs to people that have some of the worst side effects of any drug out there. I mean, they complain about marijuana that, oh my God, it might be medical if we could just take the high out of it somehow. As if the high is a terrible side effect. As if euphoria for someone who's suffering from cancer or AIDS or chronic pain, as if them getting high is bad. Yeah, we wouldn't want them to feel good, for God's sake. But instead, they'll push drugs on us using cartoons, drugs that have side effects like this. Side effects include canker sores, cholesterol, acne, panic attacks, suicidal thoughts, suicidal behaviors. Yeah, we're marketing cartoons, using cartoons to sell people who are depressed, antidepressant pills that might cause suicidal thoughts and actions. And they want to give us a problem for Cheech and Chong medicine? At least Cheech and Chong never killed nobody. So anyway, let's get back to these FDA drugs, because every drug that has ever been approved by the FDA that has been recalled is something that was once considered to be safe and effective for human use. So we'll start off. First drug on our list is this drug called Contrave. Over the last 10 years, weight loss pills have typically been taboo with the Food and Drug Administration, but there were high hopes for this drug, Contrave, after an FDA expert panel approved it in December of 2010. This is all from Huffington Post, by the way. High hopes were soon squashed with the agency's announcement to reject the once promising drug this month. The FDA cited concerns that the drug could exacerbate heart problems. They lose some weight, but fall dead of a heart attack. How about the female Viagra, flibanserin? The women's pink pill counterpart to the men's blue pill may have sounded too good to be true. It was designed to increase sexual drive in women. However, the FDA panel of reproductive advisors found the drug had little more than a placebo effect and that its benefits were not substantial enough to outweigh its side effects, including fatigue, depression, and fainting spells. This was approved by the FDA. This was a drug that was okay to use. And, of course, the big one, Vioxx. Oh, yeah, Vioxx, rofecoxib. The largest and most controversial in history of the FDA. It was approved in 1999 for an anti-inflammatory to reduce pain and stiffness. Gosh, I wonder what else could be an anti-inflammatory that reduces pain and stiffness. To treat arthritis or migraines. Gosh, I wonder what other drug could be used to treat arthritis and migraines. Vioxx was on the market for 6 years and prescribed to over 20 million people before the drug's maker pulled it from the market in 2004. Overwhelming evidence suggested that the arthritis drug caused an increase in cardiovascular problems. The Wall Street Journal, citing an unreleased government document, reported that Vioxx was responsible for an estimated 27,000 heart attacks and cardiac deaths. Vioxx, approved by the FDA, approved as a drug safe for physicians to prescribe, but not that cannabis, not that marijuana. Oh, that's way too dangerous. Can't let anyone have that. The diabetes drug Avandia was introduced in 1999 as a way to regulate blood sugar and quickly became one of the best-selling diabetes pills in the world. In 2007, researchers linked the drug with heart problems. It has been banned in the European Union and heavily restricted in the U.S., currently used only by diabetes patients unable to control their blood sugar with other medications. But we'll still let you have it. You just can't smoke any weed while you're doing it. Vicodin. Oh, last month the FDA announced that they would be significantly limiting the dose of acetaminophen in painkillers such as Vicodin and Percocet after finding the drugs had been linked to thousands of cases of liver failure in the U.S. But you can't smoke weed for your pain. Gotta take the pill. Lipitor, the incredibly popular cholesterol drug, were recalled in August, October, and December due to reports of a moldy odor. Pfizer, the maker of the drug, attributed the smell to a chemical usually used to preserve wood shipping pallets. The health effects of the stray chemical were minimal, but could cause gastrointestinal problems. Fen-Phen. 24 years on the market for the weight loss drug Fen-Phen was recalled by the FDA in 1997 after consistent reports of cardiovascular problems. This was another historic recall of a drug the FDA said was perfectly safe. Meridia, the weight loss drug approved in 1997, was recalled in October of 2010 by the FDA after a series of reports and studies linked it to, you guessed it, cardiovascular problems, found to increase stroke, heart attack, cardiac arrest, or cardiac death by 16%. But you can't smoke any weed. You don't want to smoke weed because it's a Schedule I substance. It's terribly, terribly dangerous. Avastin. Avastin was another drug, a medication designed to help treat cancer by blocking blood growth to the tumor. Gee, I wonder what other drug would prevent growth to tumors and restrict their blood flow through apoptosis. It was approved for breast cancer treatment in 2008 by the FDA. 2 years and 2 larger studies later, Avastin's approval as a treatment for breast cancer was reversed. It was shown to have little positive effect and presented serious health risks. Side effects included high blood pressure, internal bleeding, and heart failure. But don't take that Rick Simpson's oil. My God, that's cannabis. It's a Schedule I drug, and it's incredibly, incredibly dangerous. And our final of the top 10 drugs that were recalled by the FDA after the FDA had said they were safe drugs approved for doctors to prescribe to patients. Zocor. Cholesterol drug Zocor and other statins have been linked to muscular degeneration, pain, and rhabdomyolysis. Whatever the hell rhabdomyolysis is, we'll find that out in a second. Thank you, Google. These alarming side effects prompted the FDA to issue warnings for 80 milligram versions of Zocor in March of 2010. So there you have it, folks. That's some of the drugs that the FDA said were perfectly safe. That's the system we should have to follow for medical cannabis that has never killed a single human being in 5,000 recorded years of medical use. But by God, that's not enough to prove it's safe. We got to jump through the same hoops that Zocor and Vioxx and Fen-Phen all jump through. All those Avandia hoops to prove that it's safe. Through the looking glass we go, people. Marijuana not only should be descheduled, not rescheduled, descheduled. It should be taken off the schedule altogether. Should be at the same level as caffeine, people. But we'll get there, baby step at a time. And that first baby step happens November 6th, Election Day. Make sure you vote. We are going to legalize marijuana in an American state, or 2, or 3. We'll have places in America where weed is more legal than Amsterdam. And we'll be there to bring it to you. From the West Coast, we will be a wave that will sweep east. For Brian the Red, I'm Radical Russ. Until next time, take care of each other, tokers.
This is the Russ Belville Show. The Russ Belville Show is blogging and podcasting daily at radicalruss.com.
You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it. You take a seed, you plant it, you grow it, you dry it, you roll it, you smoke it, and it goes down.